Je m'appelle Maryse Condé. On peut dire que je suis écrivain. J'espère que des gens m'ont lu et me connaissent. J'aurais aimé être à Lagos. J'aurais aimé sourire, parler, échanger avec tous ceux qui sont présents à Lagos. Malheureusement, mon corps ne veut pas. J'ai appris à compter avec mon corps. Ce qui ne veut pas faire, hélas, je ne fais pas. Mais mon cœur, mon amitié, ma chaleur, la chaleur humaine, je le partage avec tous ceux qui sont autour de moi.
32 teeth following. So they are swallowing. Monkey is swallowing. Snake says swallowing. Next, a swallow too will fly and come and swallow.
Hello and good evening. My name is Lola Shone and I'm the director of the Ake Arts and Book Festival. We are super excited to share this documentary with you. And I think after seeing it, you'll understand why it's so special. We have this documentary, one, because Miss Maryse Condé and her husband, Mr. Richard Philcox, have been so generous to us. Not only have they let us into their home, they've let us take pictures of their pictures, they let us speak to them so that one way or another, they would both actively contribute to the documentary. But beyond that, we also have these incredible women writers and publishers who also joined us in paying tribute to Miss Maryse Condé. Just on a very personal level, and on behalf of the entire Ake Festival 2020 team, I would like to say a huge, huge thank you to Miss Maryse Condé. Thank you for all that you have given us. Thank you for the work and the words and the confidence that you continue to give us. Even though you're in your 80s, we still learn from you. But thank you so much for agreeing to be the headliner for Ake Arts and Book Festival 2020. Miss Maryse Condé, this tribute documentary is for you.
I met Maryse in 1965. At the time, she was teaching French at the Ghana Institute of Languages. The place was set up by Dr. Nkrumah to meet the need for Ghanaians to be aware of their own languages and, foreign languages like French, German, and others. Immediately after the coup, apart from getting Kwame Nkrumah himself away from Ghana, people like Maryse, foreigners whom the new regime assumed or presumed were leftists, socialists, as far as they were concerned, communists, were all expelled, literally given 24 hours or maybe even less to leave the country. This included Maryse and others. I felt a connection with Maryse because, number one, she is a woman, black, and a writer. And of course, on all those levels, we just, connected.
C'est une présence qui est très importante pour moi, qui a été importante dans ma vie. Je le dis aussi, c'est cette curiosité, c'est sa qualité de conteuse. Et quand je dis conteuse, c'est vraiment quelque chose de très positif pour moi, c'est-à-dire une capacité de prendre un fait et d'en faire une histoire qui vous captive.
My first Maryse Condé book, say maybe 15, 16 years ago, thereabouts, in London, Segu. And that's the most famous one, obviously.
This book, set in Mali, 19th century Mali, was for me something completely new, and the way she wrote it was so beautiful, and so her storytelling was just so enchanting that I couldn't stop reading. And since then, I'm a huge fan of Maryse Condé's work.
It so lifted me and helped me in some ways with other work projects I was doing. I was just about to start a magazine for writers, writers of African descent called Sable, and that kind of fed into what I wanted to attain, this absolute excellence that I knew that we had, that you could see through the work of writers like Maryse Condé.
I was just struck by this wondrous narrative about Africa of several hundred years ago.
The Segu series were also a big revelation, because here you have a whole saga about Africa, and it's an historical novel, and it's impressive in terms of the breadth of the narration.
I was more familiar with the empires like Mali, Ghana, Songhai, and even Borneo, but I knew next to nothing about Segu. And so that was very exciting to me. And one of the reasons I really loved it was because I was teaching at a private Christian school in America, where there were a lot of African American kids, including my own. And a lot of them really had issues with identity, and they didn't even know we had heroes in our backgrounds. And so when I read it, I thought, oh my goodness, this is wonderful. Many children and many adults, even in the diaspora, can read and find out a little more about our history. What I really like about that particular book was because although, we have the heroes, we have our anti-heroes, it was very important to let people know that we were more than just once upon a time slaves. At the same time, we weren't a perfect society. Like every society, we've got our villains, we've got our brave people and all that. And it is so textured, that book. It moved very fast, the pacing, the sweep and scope was really wonderful. For me, it was like a tapestry of the rich history of Africa, especially West Africa, but also to show that there was just so much complexity to our society.
Maryse, by writing Segu and the children of Segu, actually brought the whole history of the Arab colonization of Africa to us. She's the only writer who has done that. Maryse, as I would want to put it, covered all the bases. Wherever Black people were and are, she wrote about us. Nobody, not even any other African writers, had written before or after Segu and the children of Segu. So this is where her Africanness comes through. Coming to Africa was for her a way of finding herself.
J'ai une amie, une grande amie, dont le père était prof d'histoire à la Sorbonne, qui m'a révélé toute l'horreur, toute la profondeur du colonialisme. Jamais avant cet homme, on avait parlé de l'origine esclave, de la traite, de pourquoi il y avait des Antillais en Guadeloupe. J'ignorais. Donc j'ai découvert qui j'étais à l'origine et j'ai voulu comprendre. à cause des leçons de M. Boa, j'ai su que je faisais de l'Afrique. Donc, l'Afrique était le lieu vierge, inconnu, profond, où j'allais me refaire. Donc, je suis partie en Afrique. Mais arrivant en Afrique, j'ai appris que le continent avait souffert encore, et que peut-être se préparait à s'ouvrir davantage. Sékou Touré, qui était le premier leader de la Guinée, sous le régime duquel j'ai vécu, n'était pas un cadeau. Donc, j'ai cru qu'en déposant Mamadou Condé, je changeais de vie. Je faisais une autre. Je n'ai pas compris qu'il y avait tant de problèmes qui allaient être posés et que peut-être je ne pourrais pas les résoudre.
It's very rare to also come across a writer of fiction who put so much of their own personal story into their work. There's a book called Heremakhonon, I hope that's how to pronounce it, which traces the journey of a character called Veronica from the Caribbean who goes to Africa in search of her own identity and discovers that it's really not what she was hoping that it would be.
I was absolutely bowled over because I encountered a character that was true to herself because she was asking herself questions and not trying to be didactic or trying to send this strong message about Africa. It was a character, Veronica Mercier, going to Africa in order to find herself. But she goes to Africa with that mythical idea of the continent. For many people in the diaspora, Africa is the place where you find your roots, where you find your ancestors. And as a Guadeloupean, that's obviously what you do when you go to the continent. And she encounters an Africa a contemporary Africa that she did not expect and was not prepared for. And so we have this questioning, a constant questioning about her place in Africa, the possibility of finding herself, the impossibility of finding herself, and this kind of constant questioning about herself as a consequence about her own identity, and in the end, an inability to do anything that would be political and resembling commitment. So I really, really liked it. And also I was bowled over by the writing, which I found very innovative because the character speaks in direct and indirect language. Therefore, all the time you have access to her head, to her mind, to her thoughts, and it makes it something very, very rich reading. So I was very impressed, and I was happy to see that there were lots of possibilities in terms of narration.
Reading a work helps us get into the mindset to know about our brothers and sisters from the diaspora in the same way that she seems to have also understood the way we do things, our cultural backgrounds and everything that we do. So for that, I think she's so important.
She's written great humanizing literature. She's written complex stories, nuanced stories about Black lives, and we're in the era of Black lives, and stories that defy easy answers, not cliched. Even a lot of the ideas that we've come to hold as sacrosanct, they're questioned. And she's always showing that it's never that easy.
I think my favorite thing about her work is a little bit of a meta response. So what I will say is the fact that she only published her first book when she was 40, and that since then she has published so many more, is for me, it's a real inspiration about what it means to, as you get older, become more and more confident and more sure in your voice, especially in these times when, if you're not a success by 40, people consider you to not be capable of success. And so for me, my favorite thing about her, in addition to the very unique quality of her writing, and the subjects that she chooses and the way that she raises historical figures and plucks them out of of history. In addition to that, I think it's the fact that she's written so many books and started relatively late in her life.
There's a funny saying that I heard a few days ago, which is, "Na black, I no kill person," which means, look, I'm black, I didn't murder anybody, right? And Aitchituba, Witch of Salem, is one of those books that really makes you question the sanity of those who treat people differently just on the basis of their race and their color. And to see how a woman was demeaned in that way makes you sit and ask yourself if, as a black woman, has anything really changed?
It could be said in any time and still be so relevant, because I think a lot of women, and black women in particular, go through these trials when they don't conform to the norm, or even when they're trying to do good for society or be free and be themselves. It's always seen as something negative. Daunting, it's scary. People are afraid of black women being themselves, and that's not only during the time of slavery. It's always something I experienced myself. So reading this was also very sort of surreal, because it has so much parallels with how society is now. And it was also inspiring because despite of everything, Tituba still remained herself and true to sort of her ancestry and what made her free. I had never heard of Tituba, this kind of historical figure, the woman on whom in real life the Salem witch trials were based. And it's so interesting that, obviously Black women have in many ways been completely erased from that story. And yet here she was, this, fantastic figure, and the way that she wrote it and the way she was thinking in such a complex way really struck me. So I've known of her, and I loved that book in university, and admired her for very many reasons.
What I like is that she's honest. I think she has confidence in her readers and let them think for themselves, and that I appreciate a lot. Of the breadth of her writing, in the sense that she has gone to different places, different spaces, different realities. She left her West Indian origins, went to Africa, went to the States, went to Europe. So she has a broad view of, if you want, humanity, at the same time centering on the Black experience.
Her work really, really links the questions that face Black people all over the world.
Here was a woman from Guadeloupe, from the Caribbean, and many of us did not realize, Africans, how well connected we were to the Caribbean. I mean, we knew that intellectually from having studied history, but to understand that there was this real bond, and that Africans in America were going through exactly the same thing as people in the West Indies, as Black people everywhere, Brazil. That really gelled for me, the idea that there was just so much connecting us and that we could not separate ourselves from our fellow Black people worldwide.
The Wondrous and Tragic Life of Ivan and Ivana. Wonderful book, very layered. Layers of history, layers of time, narratives, places, and all sewn together by the story of this one life that Ivan and Ivana live through it in the Caribbean, in Africa, and then Paris, France. The bond between the two main characters, the twins, and just that focus on history, really. And also showing for us how the predicament of Black people all over the world, whether in Guadeloupe, whether in Mali, whether in Europe, the condition of the Black subject that comes through very strongly. In one scene, two characters, one tells the other, we must leave this country. This country is just a vassal of France, a place where nothing original is created and nothing good can emerge. And when you look at it, that's how, even here in West Africa, even here in Nigeria, that's how a lot of disaffected young people feel. This sense of, we must go to some other place. Ivan gets to France and discovers that there is no place for him in French society, as a lot of African youth will get to Europe, will get to America, only to be similarly disaffected. And that sense of having no peace or place at home sometimes, needing to get away, rightly or wrongly, and having no place elsewhere. And the poverty in where the twins are born, and how many of these issues are recreated in the different places they go to.
To think that in her 9th decade, Miss Maryse Condé would still give the world this incredible work, which again spans the whole, just about the whole kind of Black world in terms of the continent, is truly amazing and laudable, but also extremely admirable.
One of my favorite things about the book is that it really challenged my perception of how individuals feel right before they carry out terrorist acts. I'd always imagined that they'd be consumed with extreme anger and passion and rage. However, with Ivan, it was kind of the opposite. He seemed indifferent and almost numb to the consequences of what he was about to do. So it was almost as if it was an extreme lack of empathy rather than extreme emotions that propelled and enabled him to do the things that he did. That was really, really interesting for me to experience as a reader.
It's a polyphonic story. It's a love story. It's about politics as always, but also about desire and family. But what I liked the most about this novel is that she shows the dangers of binary thinking. And it's a 21st century novel because it talks about radicalization, it talks about being Black in France, it's talk about the situation, the political and economical situation of what she calls her country, which is actually a department, overseas department of France, but she calls it her country, Guadeloupe, the economic situation. And yeah, it's you find everything about everyday's issues that we're facing living in France, being colored in France in this novel, but also, no Manichaeism, as always, with Maryse Condé.
One of the things that gets me all the time is the lyricism of her prose. I think she's one of the writers that makes me wish that I could, read in the language in which she writes. Because I keep thinking, wow, if the English translation is this beautiful, I wonder what the original French is.
Maryse apporte quelque chose de fondamental à la littérature dite francophone, enfin de langue française. D'une part, parce qu'elle écrit à partir de la Guadeloupe, mais sans se réduire à la Guadeloupe. Mais le fait d'avoir grandi dans cette île, colonie française esclavagiste, puis toujours un peu colonie française, je pense reste le terrain d'où elle parle. Ensuite, c'est quelqu'un qui explore des tas d'événements, de faits, de récits. Donc elle n'est pas restée non plus dans un seul chemin. J'aime beaucoup, je pense aussi que tout son travail, sa manière d'écrire, comme elle le dit, d'écrire en Maryse Condé, de ne pas avoir cédé à des injonctions, d'écrire comme ci ou comme ça, a donné aussi une très grande liberté, a ouvert des voies pour d'autres jeunes femmes noires. Oui, elle a un rôle important, c'est quelqu'un qui compte et continuera et comptera encore dans cette littérature de femmes noires, de femmes des Caraïbes aussi, mais aussi mondiale, globale, parce qu'elle ne s'est jamais limitée à un territoire.
I think Maryse Condé deserves to be honored by us because, especially for a festival like Ake, but when you say us, of course you mean us as Black people living in this moment, and of course wider than Black people, as people who love literature. I think she embodies the world. So she both belongs to the world, a woman who was born in Guadeloupe and then moves to West Africa and then lives in France and then teaches at Columbia University. So the breadth of her global experience at a time when we didn't speak about Black women as belonging to the world, for me, that is remarkable. And so we have to reward her for walking a path that many people didn't see and didn't understand even existed. And she was doing it. So that's one main reason. And I think the second reason is that she, I think the world really has celebrated Toni Morrison, and rightly so. And in many ways, she's a different side of the diaspora's version of Toni Morrison, that she thinks deeply, that she writes historically, but that she's always thinking about the current moment.
Through, I think, 25 books up to now, she has managed to explore very political issues, gender, race, colonialism, class, post-colonial issues, slavery, and she did that a long time ago, and she did that in a variety of historical and geographical background. So yeah, she's one of these artists who started questioning all these very actual issues a long time ago. For me, she was like a pioneer for all of us African, European, Afro-descendant women writers. And also she is one of the rare artists from the Caribbean islands who lived and wrote about Africa, about United States, and about, like bridging the gaps between the whole Black diaspora. And I think this is really tremendous. Yeah.
Has picked up on her as a bridge and has started that conversation, that literary conversation between Africa and the Caribbean. And I feel that Ake is filling that bridge with traffic that Maryse Condé has created.
This festival, it's African time, and African time is the Caribbean, is the African diaspora, is the Black populations in Europe, in America, here in Africa, and her work is a thread through all of that, showing you that the condition that the Black person faces in the world. We always talk about this need for solidarity, to have that Pan-African moment, that Pan-African impetus, and her work encapsulates that. And her life, the life that she's lived, also attest to that. When you read her, you know, just even a short biography of her, you're astounded at the life that this person has lived. So she's really paid attention all of her career to the things that she writes about. For me, she's a great chronicler of the Black experience wherever Blackness is found. And for that reason, we have to pay respects and we have to give due recognition.
I would like to say a huge thank you to Miss Maryse Condé, to Mama Maryse Condé, for everything that she has given us, for accepting to be the headliner. Mom, this tribute is for you.
Dear Mama Maryse, I want to thank you in a very personal way for helping my son at a time when he was going through bullying at school and being taunted for being African, for reminding him of where he came from, for reminding young Black people, especially Black men at this time. Thank you for what you have given them, for the dignity, for the pride. Thank you.
Dear Maryse Condé, thank you for the life that you've lived. Thank you for your courage, your imagination, your liberating imagination. Thank you for the questions that you have raised, that you keep raising. Thank you for this last novel, especially. There's one scene there, a menage a trois. I thought if you could write that in your 80s, well, so can I. And so I shall know not to be limited in my own imagination too, and I shall always owe that to your example. Thank you so much.
Bonjour Maryse, j'espère que tout va bien aller et que ta santé va s'améliorer. Merci pour tout ce que tu nous as apporté, pour ton écriture et pour ta vision.
Maryse Condé, thank you very much for your gift of writing. You are what I dream of being in many, many years from now. I learned from you. I want to learn, bridging the gap between diasporic Africa and Africa on the continent, just based on your writing. So thank you very much for your gift and the best of health to you.
Maryse, I just love you. I love your work, and I hope that everybody in the world, in the African continent, elsewhere, will read your books. Thank you so much, Maryse, for your everything you mean for us readers and what you bring us. You're wonderful. I love you.
So, Mama Condé, I am so pleased to honor you. I am so grateful to have an opportunity to publicly honor you and to thank you for your life's work and to encourage and urge you to continue. Not that you need that encouragement. I am so admiring of the fact that you have written and written and written and continue to write. So many blessings and many, many more years of writing.
Madame Condé, merci pour la beauté, merci pour la liberté, merci pour avoir décolonisé nos imaginaires, pour avoir contribué si activement à éveiller la France à l'histoire de l'esclavage. Merci pour votre indépendance. Et votre petit pays, la Guadeloupe, a assurément offert à notre génération d'écrivains et d'écrivaines afrodescendants une femme puissante et généreuse et une étoile pour les histoires que nous avons à raconter, que nous continuerons à raconter et que nous continuerons à lire quand vous les écrivez et que vous nous les offrez. Merci.
Chère Maryse Condé, vous m'avez donné la liberté de me proclamer femme.
Hello, Maryse Condé. You have a fan out here. Thank you for introducing us to Guadeloupe, and thank you for bringing the diasporic world into Africa. But most of all, as an author, I thank you for the way you write. I found that there's this thing that you do where you hold the reader's hand and the reader gets comfortable that, oh, this is going to be a good ride. And somewhere along the way, you feel smacked in the face and you're like, whoa, I thought this was going to be easy. And that reminds us that you cannot get comfortable in literature. And you don't dress up issues. You don't protect us from the hard realities. And I walked away from your book with that kind of boldness. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, I can do that too. So thank you very much.
Greetings, Maryse Condé. I hope that you're well and safe as can be in this time of Corona. I would like to thank you so much for sharing your storytelling skills through your wonderful work. We're very blessed and honored for you to be such a magnificent African woman writer, sharing this with the world. So thank you very much.
Hi, Madame Condé. It was such an honor to review your book, and you very kindly sent me a message thanking me for the review, and that really made my day. I was so happy. And you know, I'm so sad that I never got to meet you when I was at Columbia University where you teach. So, you know, I wish if I'd known that you were there at the same time as I was, I would have come and said hello. But I'm saying hello now, and I wish you well. I hope that your strength and your health comes back, and so that you can continue writing and teaching and just being, you know, the wonderful asset you are to the world. Yeah. It's a real honour to speak to you via this medium.
Maryse, je t'aime, tu le sais. Et vraiment, je trouve que vraiment ta parole, ta voix ont été très importantes et sont toujours très importantes. Et que tu nous as donné énormément et que tu nous donnes toujours énormément. Donc merci Maryse.
Maryse, this is Amata, and I'm speaking from Ghana. I just wanted to say something very brief. That, you know, I thought we got on, you and I, in a way that was very rare. It was. I was something of your little sister, but you treated me as though I was your equal. I've missed the years when we haven't been together, and I just want to say I love you.
La langue dans laquelle j'écris n'est pas le français, n'est pas le créole, je le dis souvent. C'est une langue qui est la mienne. J'écris en Maryse Condé.